Mayor Turner was helping cut the ribbon on a new East End housing project. But he knew exactly what we were about to ask him.
It's been a beautiful day. I'm glad you were able to attend.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Instead of answering a simple question, the mayor's security team tried to push me out of the way. You know us.
Folks in the Fifth Ward want to know if you'll...
Whoa. You okay?
No, really.
Hey, guys.
I've done it, guys. Folks in the Fifth Ward want to know if you'll return your campaign contributions from Union Pacific. Mayor, you took money from Union Pacific after the cancer cluster.
That's sad. It's really sad. Sad. What can we do?
Mary Hutchins sits on her porch with her neighbors on Lavender Street and just shakes her head at the news that so many Houston politicians did the same thing.
You know, what can we do? What can we do?
It's important for us to show a unified presence.
Just days before, the mayor had appeared at that packed TCEQ hearing in the Fifth Ward. Folks watched a parade of local politicians promising to fight against the new hazardous waste permit for Union Pacific.
The data shows that the community is not exposed to the contamination.
That was about the only laugh in a night where it was obvious folks have simply had enough.
And UP, Union Pacific, should do more, need to do more, and quite frankly, no one will be allowing this contaminant to be under people's homes in any other parts of the city.
Many of the folks who crowded into the Deluxe Theater have cancer or have watched their kinfolks die from cancer. Contamination from creosote-treated railroad ties at the Union Pacific plant. It's why they now call Lavender Street Ghost Street.
If you come around here at night, just take a look for yourself and just see it's a dead neighborhood. It's just dead like no man's land. It's a neighborhood that's dying off and it's not going to come back. What about our kids and our grandkids that's still here and can't afford to move out?
So this has been a long fight.
Yes. Too long. Too long.
Sandra Edwards was in that room that night and didn't have a clue what our investigators had already uncovered.
Just makes me mad and mad.
A string of campaign donations to Houston politicians that began right after the Fifth Ward cancer cluster was confirmed.
And we wonder why we can't get the test done, why we can't get nothing done, because they pocketing the money to make sure we shut up.
Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner had never received a penny from the railroad company in his first 3 years in office until August 29, 2019, $5,000 from the Union Pacific PAC. Look what had happened in the weeks before. August 13th, the Texas Department of State Health Services confirms the cancer cluster in the Fifth Ward. The city health department claimed they didn't know. Tests of drinking water had proven nothing, despite years of complaints. But the residents had demanded a state investigation back in April of that year, sure that Union Pacific was to blame.
We grew up. We're not them little kids that watched our parents suffer and shut up and not say anything. We're speaking out and we're getting things done.
In November of 2019, the Houston Health Department promised a door-to-door survey of 110 properties. And in December of that year, Union Pacific donated again to Mayor Turner, along with a few Houston legislators. Of all those politicians, State Senator Carol Alvarado has accepted the most money from Union Pacific in the last 2.5 years. But wait till you hear who's getting the second highest amount of Union Pacific campaign cash.
How about that? Give it up for him, please, one time.
The state senator for the Fifth Ward, Borris Miles. Like Turner, Union Pacific began to add to Miles' campaign coffers only after the cancer cluster was confirmed, when the neighborhood clearly knew who was to blame. On October 18, 2019, months after the residents of the Fifth Ward had finally gotten the test to confirm what they already suspected, Miles accepted a contribution of $2,500. And on February 10th of 2020, another contribution of $2,500. That was 7 days after the Gibson law firm had filed its first lawsuit representing residents. In September 21, as the EPA voiced growing concerns, Union Pacific donated yet another $2,500 to Senator Miles. When the folks fighting for justice on Lavender Street learned of our findings, they were not happy, to say the least.
So I'm very upset about that. And they ought to be embarrassed for taking the money.
Fifth Ward, family, community. Tonight is the night. We've been at this now for some 20 years, Harold. 20 years, Congresswoman Tasha.
Folks who live here know how long they've been fighting, Senator.
I don't mind you getting up showboating. We need this done. It's been too long, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, we know it's been too long because if you're taking contributions, you are not caring how long it takes.
I personally do not think that politicians who are representing residents in that area, much less any other politicians, should be accepting money from Union Pacific, particularly looking at their actions and their failures with respect to cleaning up this area.
Mayor Turner has put Councilman David Robinson in charge of the city's response. But here's a tip, Councilman. Don't go into a room full of people who think they got cancer because of Union Pacific's neglect and call them your friends.
Certainly appreciate the mayor putting me in charge as the chairman of the TTI committee, transportation, with our friends from Union Pacific up here.
If the politicians won't give the money back to Union Pacific with a big no thank you, never again, then donate it to help these folks. Some are sick, the rest simply too poor to leave Lavender Street.
When those city officials could have took that money and donated to people medication, to people treatment.
It's been a beautiful day. I'm glad you were able to attend.
Maybe you can ignore our questions, but not theirs.
This is crazy. You are not going to keep doing this to my people. You will not keep prospering off our backs.